Welcome to Global Connections. I'm your guest host, filling in for Carlos Juarez. And I have with me some guests from Hawaii Pacific University, from the College of Business, Dr. Thomas Kohler, who is one of our associate professors. And I'm going to give him a shout out as well, because we just heard recently that he's had another publication accepted in California Management Review. So those of you that read CMR, he's well published in a number of fields and does a fabulous job in the classroom as well. And I'm going to ask him to introduce our other guests.
Thanks so much for having me and for giving us a chance to talk about our project-based learning initiative. We have Adria here and Susanna, two students of our project that we just completed today. We just came from the final presentation to the client.
Good. And so can you tell us a little bit, because project-based learning is very important at Hawaii Pacific University and within the College of Business. And in fact, we were lucky enough to receive funding via the Jeff and Laura Boronisa research, the Excellence Award and the Project Learning. And so for us within the College of Business, this is one of our major initiatives. And Jeff Boronisa was the CFO of Kellogg, is a wonderful supporter of the College of Business, both financially and actually contributing his business acumen as well. And so we're going to talk today about some examples that fall under that project-based initiative. But can you start us off with explaining to the audience, what is project-based learning? What is that? How is that different than an internship?
Yeah, so I think there's different ways of learning, and project-based learning takes the approach of learning by doing. So with our project-based learning initiative, we partner with outside organizations, companies, or nonprofit organizations, or also state departments to work on projects that allow the students to have an opportunity for hands-on work that allow them to build their skills they will need in their workplace. And for the companies we're partnering with and the organizations, it's an opportunity to add value to whatever business challenge they might have.
Right. So within the College of Business, kind of our core mission is to develop profession-ready global leaders, and to do so in a way that adds value to students, business, and the community. So you were talking earlier about some of the research that really speaks to why a project-based model is so advantageous for students as well as for the business and the community. Can you share that with us a bit?
I just came across a report that pointed out that 90% of employers feel that the students that they hire from college, they're not prepared for their job, and at the same time, the average college thinks they do a great job of preparing the students. So clearly there's a mismatch that we want to address by partnering with organizations and really working on hands-on activities.
And so for us within HPU, we're rather proud that for years we've been working with businesses and community partners. And 3 years ago, when we launched this initiative, it allowed us to grow that, expand that, really make sure that all of our students had this experience. So can you tell us a little bit about the Athlete Original project as well as some of the other projects? Maybe start with some of the other projects first, and then we'll delve into the Athlete Originals project.
So for a whole range of classes, we partner with companies. In my marketing classes, we partnered, for instance, 2 years ago with the Oahu Country Club. And there, the project was doing a research project that helps them come up with the strategies to rejuvenate their brand and bring in new members and create an offer that is appealing for the members. That's just one example. Every semester, we partner with companies from ASB Hawaii that runs a Triple Crown surf contest, where we then take the students to the events and we ran their social media initiatives. Those are just two examples now for this project. This semester, we partner with Athletes Original, which is a platform that empowers athletes to have their original clothing line within 2 weeks by putting out a call for new original designs to a crowd of designers, and then the athletes can sell their clothing to the fans and build their brand through the Athletes Original platform.
Good, good. So now let me turn to the students who participated in the project. Can you give us just an overview, so we know now a little bit about Athlete Originals? What was the scope of this project and the deliverables that were expected?
So we did a project with Athlete Originals, and there were different perspectives to the project. So we had the club sector, we had fundraising, and these were all dimensions within Athlete Originals. So we were consultants for the marketing of Athlete Originals. As it's a startup, it was a great learning experience.
Okay.
Yeah, we tried to set up which one was the strategies that we should follow and the ideas that we would like to implement, and then we just split up in groups, and then we worked to set up the outcome that we would like to achieve, and then now at the end we just overall analyze how the outcomes went and how well we did.
Right. So,
just to follow up on it, I think the difference for this approach is that rather than just planning the strategies, we really worked hard to also implement concrete initiatives. So one of the group members, for instance, ran a Google AdWords campaign. Adria has worked with our soccer team to initiate a fundraiser. Susanna has worked with the campus recreation at HPU to launch a t-shirt crowdsourcing design competition. So it's not just about planning and ideas, but going through the cycle of putting an idea into practice, measuring what works, what doesn't work, to then take away concrete learnings.
I'm smiling because you anticipated my question. You answered it before I even asked. So just even a little bit more, if you talk about the difference between the model that we're using instead of just a traditional business plan. So oftentimes people will think of a business plan or a business plan competition, and really the model is you're doing a current state first, you're understanding things about the business, but you're not getting it all down on paper, handing over a document, but you're actually practicing, implementing, and taking feedback from that. Is that accurate? What else would you tell people? So just so that the audience can see kind of this model, and it's a cutting edge approach to doing business, especially in a dynamic industry or for a startup. Tell us a little bit more about the overarching model, and then we'll get to what you found.
Well, we had kind of the freedom to set up the ideas that we think that would work, and then with professor and the owner of the company, we decided which one the ideas that we had they were able to be implemented. And then we just set up different strategies, and then we all together we implement the ideas that we kind of thought that they were good to go. Instead of having, this is the plan that you need to do and you're gonna do it, we kind of had the good freedom to brought up the ideas, and with their management decision, we decided which ones could be the best ones to be implemented for this project.
So overall, our target was to expand the market for Athlete Originals. And since we are MBA students, we have that perspective from the student vision, from the athlete point of view. So we looked at different ways of doing it and implemented some of them.
Great, and they're wanting to move to commercial as well, so we will be right back.
I host Likeable Science on
Connections.
ThinkTech Hawaii. And I do this because I care about science literacy in Hawaii. I want to spread the understanding that science is a vital and interesting part of everyone's life. I want to make sure the broadest possible spectrum of people understand the beauty and the value of science and realize that science plays out each and every day of their lives. I want you to understand that science is fun. So we bring on to this show each week guests who are scientists, from astronomers to zoologists, and we talk about what they do and how they do it. But most importantly, we talk about why you should care about their work, why you should see that their work has value and impact on your life. So I hope you'll join us Fridays, 1 p.m. here on ThinkTech Hawaii. You can watch us via live stream. You can watch us recorded on Olelo, and you can see us each week. We hope you'll join us.
Welcome back to Global Connections, and we're just going to follow up where we left off, talking about the Athlete Original project on our project-based learning initiative. And so one of my questions, and I was fortunate enough to be able to participate and watch you all in action at early stages, was really about the role that research plays in the model of developing both the plans, early stage plans, as well as the implementation. So how do you use that research to form your ideas?
So we were nine members in this team, and each of us researched one of the areas of this project. So we did a lot of research before we began to implement different ideas. And with this research, we chose the areas that were most significant. So we researched the effect of social media marketing and different areas of marketing that relate to Athlete Originals. And then we chose which are the optimal areas to focus on.
Okay, good. And can you tell us, just kind of overview, what were some of the things that you learned by working on the project?
Well, I think it's a great experience because it gives you a real touch and a real feeling of what is working for a real company. That sometimes from the student side and from the student life, it's very theoretical and very beautiful. But then as soon as you step up to the real life, you can find challenges. You can find some things that they don't go as fast or as long as you think that it would. But it's a good experience, especially since we are both athlete background. This is a sports marketing company. That was a great opportunity and a great experience. Yeah.
And how about for you?
I would agree with Adria. Just stepping out of the theory side and actually using that theory in the real business world. That was, I think, the best learning experience from this.
Okay, and so from that, so what you may not know is within a university, we have what are called program level outcomes, which means a student coming in, then we give them outcomes coming from the business community. What do we need to prepare students for? What does that mean? And then we have course level outcomes. So in this, Thomas, can you give us what were maybe two or three of the course level outcomes for the project level outcomes, and then I'm going to turn back to you and say, working on the project, how did it enhance your knowledge and understanding and ability for these things? Can you give us a couple of examples?
One of the first objectives is to build the knowledge about the key concepts that we're using for this project. So understanding the crowdsourcing, understanding business models, understanding two-sided platforms that connect consumers and creators together, that form the basis. And then the learning objectives expand to the skills of building the abilities to implement those initiatives. So going back to the earlier point of measuring, not just putting the initiative out there, but being able to understand, let's just say Google Analytics, for instance, to analyze the traffic on the website. So we had one of the team members of our client who is an expert in Google Analytics and who works all day with this tool, brief us on how we need to interpret the metrics. So both the knowledge, the skills, and then also the values of appreciating the flexibility needed to operate in a fastly changing environment.
Okay. And so what do you think from doing? Because it's, and I always use kind of a sport metaphor for this, is that one model kind of is you read about it, you learn from a cognitive element, you listen, you absorb, but from sports, we're quite used to models that you go in and you go to batting practice. So this is real company, so it's not really the batting practice type, you're actually in the game. And so kind of,
one of the
how did that experience work?
I think that I've learned the most, and I've seen it, that is not kind of what idea do you have or what you're doing, it's the matter of how you do it, and how you're gonna face it, and what the steps you're gonna do, and basically how you're gonna do it, and how you're gonna overcome the barriers that you're gonna find, you're gonna predict them, and then how you're gonna succeed.
Okay, and I think that's an excellent takeaway, that really is, whether it's at the high school level, people using project-based learning, you don't just learn about it, that the how is critical. So let me ask you, what was the most surprising thing you learned when you actually started applying the research and the theories? What was something that was like, oh my goodness?
Well, I would have to say, like Thomas mentioned, that the dynamic environment of the whole project. So it wasn't a project where we received a certain schedule and just worked according to like a typical class. It was more about adapting to the situation. So we, for example, focused on looking at how NCAA would relate to athlete originals. And because of certain restrictions, we found that clubs would be more appropriate at this stage. So just adapting to the environment, I think that was one of the most surprising situations, and that was something that we really gained a lot from, just being able to go with the moment.
What a critical takeaway, since going back to what Thomas said earlier, one of the things that businesses often relay about business education is that we're teaching, but people come out not as adaptive as they need to be, thinking, here's the solution, and give me a timeline. And here you're saying you had real experience in being adaptive and leading that adaptation process.
Yeah.
Good. How about biggest challenge?
I would say that having that long-term goal, because each of us had a long-term goal, but cutting it up into shorter goals and having those milestones in between, that was probably the biggest challenge. And I think all of us learned a lot from it. In the beginning, perhaps we were more insecure about, okay, so how much control do we take with this? But throughout the process, I think each of us learned to set those goals and just meet our own goals.
Yeah, the main goal was always the timing, because you cannot go as fast as the reality goes. So sometimes you would do a lot of things that you just need to follow the timing. And no, it's good. Very good.
Okay. And again, I think we can see a difference with a traditional classroom environment, which is fabulous to have things laid out, but here you had to kind of take what's your goal and figure out how to do all the milestone steps, working together with your faculty member. Okay, excellent.
And Einstein has this quote that in theory, reality and theory are the same, but in reality they're not. And we just had a recap with the client, with the students, and with my reflection of how we evolved throughout the project. And going into the project, you know, there were questions that we needed to explore, both also for the client, where, especially for a startup and a dynamic platform, things evolve, and we just had to be nimble to adapt to what worked and what didn't work.
So with this learning model, obviously the stakes are much higher. So let me ask, did the client feel that he received the outcomes that he expected? Because we're focused on your learning, and he's focused obviously on value that's being added to his business. So what was the takeaway?
Yeah, we think that he really got the outcome that he was looking for, and we'll probably continue with this project for the next semester. So I think that we're pretty good and satisfied, both of us. Yeah.
Okay, how about from a concrete perspective? So that would be his, do you have, we were supposed to achieve this, and then he has a measure of that outcome. So something in particular he was looking for, did he receive?
I believe so. We had those different dimensions, including storytelling, clubs. We had different sectors. So I think each sector reached their goals, which were also set with engagement with Chris. So I believe that we did.
Okay, good. Dare I ask Professor Kohler?
Certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we accomplished a lot. I wish we would have accomplished even more, but also for the client, you know, who was happy with the outcome, and some of the deliverables that we presented today will be included next week. So for instance, we worked on creating the stories for the athletes that have their brand through Athlete Original. So they will be going out on social media next week, and then we'll be able to measure the engagement and hopefully an increase in sale at the platform. So it will be interesting to see those concrete outcomes, and we have some outcomes, like with the Google AdWords campaign, where we increased recognition for the platform.
Okay, and thank you very much. So we're glad you had an interesting experience. So when I'm talking to the client, I'm getting very positive feedback
Yes, you will.
as the project is moving on. And so thank you for talking about this example of project-based learning. And so we're going to go to break for a moment. We're going to bring back another student team and faculty member to talk about another project and what they learned from it as well. Thank you
Thanks for
again.
having us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Aloha, I'm Hunter Hevlin, host of Sustainable Hawaii here at ThinkTech Hawaii. You can tune in every week on Thursday at 2 p.m. to see interviews with sustainability professionals from around the state and even further abroad, learning about activities with water management, food security, waste management, and a whole host of other fascinating opportunities to get engaged with making a greener island. So if you're interested,
Aloha, my name is Miley Scarpino and I'm the host of the Empower Hour. If you're interested in health, nutrition, fitness, here on the island of Oahu, want to learn more about places to train at or different trainers available, then watch my show on Fridays at 3. We have a great time and I hope that you'll come join us. Much aloha, now go get swole!
Aloha, my name is Josh Green. I'm a senator from the Big Island and ER physician. Every other Tuesday, I get to host a show here on the ThinkTech program about healthcare. We call it Healthcare in Hawaii. It's really enjoyable for me to bring other healthcare leaders from around the state to talk about our pressing issues. Hawaii has long been the health state, but we need to keep up the momentum, the inertia, and with your help and with your participation, we can come and share all of the big issues that are pressing day to day. Thanks for joining us every Tuesday, alternating weeks from 2 to 2:45.
Aloha, I'm Kili'i Akina, president of the Grassroots Institute and host on Ehana Kako, a weekly program on the ThinkTech Hawaii broadcast network. Ehana Kako means let's work together. Think of the sad alternative, let's not work together. Here in Hawaii, with all of our diversity and the richness of the people, it's important for us to come together around issues on the basis of what's right and what's good and what's going to serve the common good. And that's what we try to do at Ehana Kako. Every week we interview movers and shakers, people in government, business, and other sectors of society to talk about how to create together a better government, economy, a better world here in Hawaii that can bless the rest of the world. I thank you for your attention to ThinkTech Hawaii, and we look forward to seeing you every Monday, 2 to 3 p.m. on the ThinkTech Hawaii broadcast network. We're Ehana Kako, and we wish you well. Aloha.
Here's the deal. I'm Jay Fidel. I'm the host of Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, which is the Energy Policy Forum's program on Wednesday. That's how we call Wednesday Energy Wednesday. We call it Energy Wednesday every Wednesday. Are you surprised? Okay, and we try to get guys like Jim Alberts here from Hawaiian Electric who can tell us what's really going on in energy. We want to be informed. It's so important. It's the most important initiative in our state. Clean energy is major, okay? And that's why we cover it on this show. That's the deal. What do you think, Sharon?
I think that's great. That's why we're here every Wednesday from 4 to 5, and we hope you all join us so we can hear people like Jim coming on our show and co-host Ray Starley from Hawaii Energy.
Okay, Jim, you've been here today. You've seen this. You heard what she said. What do you think?
I think it's a tremendous opportunity for people to come together and talk about the issues. Oftentimes, there isn't a good forum to bring these key issues out into the public, and this is a tremendous way to go about it. And the activity of this show is essential to keep talking about energy because, as you said, it's such an essential part of our lives that we need to pay attention to it and we need to think about the future.
Okay, Ray, your turn.
Well, this is a special time in the history of Hawaii where we're making some pretty radical changes in the way we use energy and generate energy. And this show is the one place you can count on coming to every Wednesday and hearing something about the latest issues that are on the table, being discussed, that will affect us all going forward. So come join us, and if you have some ideas you want to share with us about energy, give us a call and let us know. We'll put you up here and let you talk for an hour. So come see us.
Thanks, Ray. Thanks, Sharon. Thanks, Jim. It's great to be, from ThinkTech's point of view, it's great to have this show. We love the show. It's our most important show. So come around and listen to us 4 to 5 on Wednesday. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Welcome back to Global Connections. We are here with Dr. Ken Rossi and 2 MSIS students, and we'll let you explain for people, MSIS students, what that means. So Ken, can you tell us a little bit about, first introduce the students, and then about the TIP program that we're working with within the College of Business?
Today I have 3 students, Marcus Mendonca and Dan Fuverup, and Jenny Du, who's on the sidelines. She was ready in case we needed her. They're all students in the capstone project, capstone course for the MSIS program, Master of Science in Information Systems. And for the last couple of years, we've had our students involved with the state of Hawaii's IT transformation project. It started late 2012, early 2013, with the idea the state was going to do a complete overhaul of their entire IT program. As part of that, they developed an internship program to bring individual students in for semester-long time to learn about the state, to learn about working in a regular organization, and hopefully help a little bit in the process. One of our faculty members, Catherine Linus, got involved in the first semester, and her software engineering class produced a software project for the state. And we went down and talked to them and found out we could include entire classes in this project. So instead of individual interns, we'd assign students from classes to perform projects for the state. Like I said, it's gone on now for the last 2.5 years, and these folks have just finished their project for this semester.
So, excellent. And I have to tell, for me, what was a wonderful story. I was actually at an update from the state talking about things that had really been accomplished that year from the state's perspective. And they featured a project that our students had done. And so I'm not inclined to maybe just sit quietly in the audience. I was so excited and sharing, oh, those are HPU, MSIS, and MBA students that actually worked on that with Dr. Catherine Linus and Dr. Ken Rossi. So and Dr. Larry Rowland as well. So tell us about the project that you're working on.
Oh, it was a great project. It was we were actually in charge of piloting of the Program Management Center of Excellence for the state of Hawaii, and that's a program that is to be rolled out and to be standardized and automatic throughout the 18 departments in the state. We were in charge of all the other groups of interns. There's about 40 or 50 of us.
Yeah.
And every week they had to give us status reports on what the projects were, and we used the project management process to document those processes and follow up with them and mentor them, and also give feedback to the project managers that were managing us. So it was a great experience because not only we had access to the people of the state. We were. It was a great way to network. It was also a hands-on experience that got us to work for real and in a good way professionally. And we just finished yesterday. We had a great ceremony. There's some weight off our shoulders right now because it was very time-consuming, I would say, and but it gave us a good feeling of job well done in the end. It was really nice to hear from the people of the state what we've done and everything that we did for them.
Good. Anything you would add?
Yeah, I would say it's awesome because the project gives us, as he said, live experience. So this is experience I can take with me. Applying jobs, I do have that working experience for me. That's exciting.
And so, same question that I asked the other side of students. So here is an opportunity to not just learn about it and not just practice it in a very safe classroom environment, to actually go out, work where people are depending on you. As you said, here you're in direct contact and giving outcomes that people are using. So what were some of the things for you that you learned that were even a little surprising?
I would say that actually having sometimes communicating can be difficult sometimes, but we get through it. Also, that things might take some long times than expect for like a class project, because here in this project there's more people involved, there's more work involved in what we're doing. So actually scheduling and do the things can take a bit long time than we do in the class, and that's the kind of things to know.
Good, and I think everyone that is out in the work environment is
Yeah.
nodding along with you, that yes, to plan it is kind of the easy part. To execute usually takes longer and more communication than we think. Excellent. How about for you?
I think that, everything that the professors teach us in class is, not everything, but a lot is about the beautiful world of business and how everything works right and how everything is done on time and all that. So going to the state and helping them with this project was actually a good experience, or a good way for us to see that it's not like that, right? And one of the problems, you said, talked about communication. We had a major communication problem in the beginning when, this transformation internship program has been going around for about almost 3 years now, right? And for the past almost 3 years, it's always been the same way. But then this semester, there was a major change, and with the new governor and the administration and all that. So in the, say, second or third week of the program, there was a huge miscommunication going on with, and that's among the professors, all the stakeholders, including the professors, the interns, and the project sponsors. Luckily, and in a good way, we were able to get things together. There was what we call throughout the program the storm recovery. We were able to recover from the storm and from the huge communication to fix everything and get things back on track, and then to finish the program in a very positive way. And that was, once again, yesterday.
So sounds like from that, so tell me if this would be accurate, that, because oftentimes when we're thinking about communication, the first thing we go to is, what did someone else not do? It sounds like what you're really saying is, we really looked at this. Anytime there's a transformation, how do we all step up our communication so that something changing, we're all contributing, we're all communicating, and you had some very positive outcomes from that.
Absolutely.
So, for sure. That's excellent. That is excellent. So you actually answered my next question, which was, what were some of the challenges you faced? Anything else that was a challenge you faced and that you learned something from really being able to handle the situation?
No, I wouldn't say that, but it's important to be dynamic in your project, especially because things changes all the time.
Yes. Okay. So, and what were the things that you learned in doing the project that helped you with that?
Actually, I don't come up with something. No.
Okay. Is it more just you have to do it?
Yeah, you just
so here you are in a situation, you have to do it.
Yeah, you just have to do it and pull through it. Okay, this project has to be done. This task has to be done.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is one of the very positive takeaways.
Yeah.
And so if you're looking, you mentioned that working on projects are usually significantly more work than maybe a traditional class experience might be, more at stake, more unusual hours. Was it worth it?
Definitely. I like the experience I got from this, for sure. Even though we had probably put a lot of more hours than some of our other classmates, because they write a paper, we do the project. So because we had weekly meetings with the states and presentations and all the things, yeah.
Okay, how about for you? Was it worth it?
Oh, definitely. I think that, I mentioned the theory in the classes with project management is part of the program, and that's one of the classes that we have to take. And a lot that you learn often comes this way and goes out this way, and then you're like, when am I going to need that, right? So this was the time that we used it. And knowing that there is a process for any projects is actually very helpful, not only on your professional career, but also on your personal career. One of the consultants was saying that, you know, these documents and everything, all this documentation that we go through, I actually do that at home, you know, with my kids and on small projects that I have at home. So I'm like, oh, okay, so there is an idea too.
Oh, so that's a different takeaway.
Yeah,
Usually we think about it
right?
to students, business, and the community. Now we can add, and families as well.
So it was good to see how the process is done, how everything is documented, and to put the project in place and to make it happen, and then at the end see the end product, to see what you were actually able to produce and present the end product to the stakeholders, to the sponsors of the project. So definitely a life learning experience.
Right. And so we opened with kind of within the College of Business and consistent with all of HPU's mission is to develop profession-ready global leaders. I'm going to ask you kind of two questions. The first was, if I was interviewing you for a job, what is it in this experience or any other that you would say really helped you become profession-ready? So did it help doing the project? So you've given me, seems like an awful lot of examples that I can assume that it increased your profession readiness. Would that be accurate? Or did it help you feel like you could hit the ground running in your current job or new jobs coming up?
I would say yeah, for sure. Especially because you have to take a lot of people into account. You have to engage with different people. You have to engage in different project groups. All this is an experience you can take with you, especially learning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I totally agree. I think that I mentioned the exposure that we had was significant. I think that the experience that we developed and the things that we learn are to be with us forever, and I consider myself totally ready. I'll tell you that there is people that have been contacting us.
Well, and actually that is one of our takeaways. So we didn't have that kind of right within our mission, but for us, making sure we're preparing people and also helping people find work where they can continue to add value. So in the projects, it is not unusual for whether it's the state or a company that we're doing projects for them to say, oh, by the way, could we hire this student moving forward? So good takeaway. How about the leadership side? And so oftentimes for MSIS, people think about it really as a technical role, even though we know in that there's an awful lot of leadership. Speak a little bit about how this experience or any of the projects that you've participated in really helped you with your leadership skills.
You know, when I first sat with the dean about choosing this program and to making a decision whether I was going to do an MBA or something else, I really wanted to sit with Dr. Roland, which is the head of the department chair. And I sat down with him, and then after having a talk with him, I told him, Professor, I really like to be involved with technology. I think that it's a great field. But I'm concerned because I come from a business background. I don't know anything about programming and whatnot. And then after like 30 minutes or 40 minutes of talking to him, he was like, you're the person that we're looking for in this industry, you know? And then after that, I was like, oh, this is what I'm doing. Because it does, you need to have some type of, I mean, you don't need, but you can develop some type of people's skills to manage, to lead, as you mentioned, other groups. And in this program that we were this semester, there was also a great opportunity for us to do that. Every team had to choose a project manager, and every project manager had to come up and do presentations and had to lead their groups also. And so it was a whole great global experience of leaders and leadership and people skills and presentations and things like that we had to do. So definitely.
Excellent. How about for you, as on the leadership side?
I would say the project actually gave me much more confidence during the leadership because I was considered. I do actually have an IT background from Norway, so we do a lot of project managing, but it's not the same as doing a real project for it. So that gave me a lot of confidence and a real life experience. Yeah.
And Ken, let me ask you the same question. So, because you've really been instrumental in leading so many projects, what do you see as kind of with the model of project-based learning of really being able to add from that profession-ready and global leadership side?
Well, it accomplishes a couple of things. For the capstone for the program, students need to understand that they're not technicians. They're leaders of technicians. They're leaders of projects. So this project is an ideal example of the kinds of work they'll do when they leave. Although they didn't leave the country to do the job, when you look at a global team, you've got Brazil, Norway, and Taiwan, and the fourth student was from the United States. So you have this international group of students who go into a leadership position because they're leading projects.
Right.
They were leading a group of project managers, and then the project teams themselves, the team that did the HRD program had 7 Saudi Arabians and 2 from another country and 1 from the United. I mean, it was an unbelievable mix of students. And so you not only have to do the work,
right.
You not only have to deal with the communications issues you have with a client organization, which is the bureaucracy and all of that, you also have to develop communication skills amongst yourselves. And these are all skills that they need to use when they go out there as global leaders. So both of these, or all 3 of these students, will be prepared to lead multinational groups throughout, throughout the whatever kind of project they have. Plus, they got that experience of what an MSIS student should be doing, which is that big systems integrator. They integrate all the different parts of an organization and connect it through technology. So it kind of fulfills the and the final thing is what they notice, and we call it the aha moment. Is you learn all this stuff in class, and you walk out there and you go, aha, that's what this is about. So it's a phenomenal experience for them, for the state, and for us.
And so now they spoke to, it's more work. That is the reality. It takes more time. For you as a faculty member, is it worth it? Because as a faculty member, and it's something that we know that business leaders are asking for. It's something, so you can see behind me on our screen, Jeff Boromisa really spoke to as well as something that is critical. Thomas talked about before, it's something that oftentimes in universities, we think we're doing a great job, and we really have to look at, okay, our students are hearing about it, they can relay it, can they do it? So do you think it's worth the time, or does it take extra time?
It is, and it changes the dynamic of what we do in the classroom, because, traditional classroom, give assignments, I grade assignments, everybody does the same thing. In this environment, this semester only had 1 external project. Other semesters have had 3 and 4, and the assessments I use for them change. So everything is done differently with the focus of what are the learning outcomes, what do we expect them to know, but the path is all different. So it requires me to provide a grade similar to, everybody gets the same grade, but the path to it is different. So it creates extra work for me, but the value of it is this is kind of cool. You get to see them applying what they've learned, and then you're able to evaluate how well are they, can they really do the job? To say they are prepared to go out and lead a project team is one of our program outcomes. To do it in a class, to do it in a case study. Okay, they did good, doing a case study. This is, they really had to go out there and lead a team and present projects at the end. And one of the projects they presented has been being fielded today. That's the HRD, the position description project. This was a project completely designed by the students, and it's been fielded throughout all 18 departments of the state, starting today, so that everybody in the state will now manage some of their human resources process with a project created by our kids. And that's what's really cool.
Yeah.
But what it comes down to is how do I evaluate it? So I have to change the evaluation from one project to another.
Right. And so what is so clear and rewarding to me as a dean is watching a variety of different learning tools in action, and very proud of all of you and our faculty for including project-based learning into that model, and for even sharing that a bit today with the audience. So thank you very, very much, all of you, for coming and telling us about what you're doing. And thank you that you're learning, you're willing to share with the community as well. And so for our faculty, thank you. They do an amazing job at this initiative. So thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to continuing to watch our Global Connection show, even when we are not hosting or guests. So thank you for joining us today.